Alright, 2 swordsmen and a mage shouldn't pose too much of a problem. Not unless I get really unlucky. But hopefully putting Beowulf in the forest will help mitigate bad luck a bit. He is so much better now that he can use silver swords. That was really the main problem with him before, the fact that he really couldn't use anything better than a steel weapon. He got a lot more damage there than I expected. But that's fine, he basically served his purpose there. Again, keeping Bridget and Dew next to each other because I'm wanting to pair them, and again, there's no real easy way to pair Bridget. She doesn't have any special conversations with anyone. Actually, she does, but it's with Midale, who will pretty much be paired with Edain, and he's not Bridget's best pairing anyway. Yeah, of course, Sylvia having to stay next to Claude until they're paired. Don't want her getting any more love points with Levin, that's why. The reason I'm moving Jamukha forward with everyone else is that, one, well, there will be more Pegasus Knights coming later, and two, I can't do wanting to get promoted. Even though I'm not really using him, it just feels satisfying to get as many characters promoted as possible. Again, this game really does encourage training up everyone equally. In fact, the developer himself stated that in an interview. He basically made this game so that, yeah, players would be encouraged to level up everyone evenly. As opposed to in some of the early games where people would get a new character they deem as useless, give all their weapons to someone else, and just never use them. Unfortunately, that kind of mentality really came back in Fire Emblem 6, which featured an almost endless number of crappy pre-promotes. And I mean really crappy pre-promotes. It also, rather ironically, featured Percival, one of the possibly best pre-promotes in the series. Sorry I went off on a massive tangent there, but nothing really eventful is happening. If I have any advice for players out there at this point, don't visit that village up there yet. Not the one that's being attacked by the pirate, the one that's completely intact. Don't visit that one yet. Yeah, from this point on, I'm kind of cutting out half my turns. And once you get close enough to the castle, this event happens. So, the enemies raise the drawbridge and you can't get across the river. But that's really not our concern at the moment, it's these blizzard mages. Now, hopefully, if you move anyone into their range, make sure they're on forests. That way, they're not in any risk of dying unless, for some stupid reason, all three of them hit. Just remember that this captain has a much higher hit chance. Well, not much, just Actually, 20% compared to 10% is quite a lot higher, but a higher chance of hitting you than the other two do. He's also a mage fighter, which is rather interesting class, mostly seen as enemies. The only character at this point you have who promotes into that class is Thove. Rather odd class that can use swords and magic, but most of the time they're really, really crap with swords. Now Holland needs healing before he goes any further. Yeah, better use of the Libro staff than the reserve staff. That's a lot more valuable. And the reserve staff will really come in handy in the next chapter when you have large numbers of very powerful enemies attacking you all at once. This point though, you're really not having much enemies attacking you except for... well, except until you get to the castle. Which is another thing, you might think, now that the bridge is gone, how do you get to the castle? Well, this is what I was kind of hinting at before. This is going to cause a lot of frustration normally. Now, normally what you have to do is... cutting out my turn again because I was just spending the rest of the turn moving all my characters at the bottom end, and they're really not going to affect anything in terms of combat at this point, so I cut it out. Anyway, what you're supposed to do, supposed in inverted commas, which can't really be expressed with just plain talking, but anyway, is to... there's this little bit of the map that comes off from the river a bit that leads onto the mountains. What you're meant to do is cross the mountains to get to the castle from below. This obviously takes a while, and unpromoted mounted characters can't actually go on mountains at all. So, yes, it can be very frustrating. Your other option, though, is not nearly as frustrating. All you need is dew. You'll see later. So make sure you've brought dew with you at this point, unless you want to go mountain climbing, which is not very fun, trust me. Right, it's high time we got rid of these blizzard guys. Long-range magic is never a good thing to have the enemy using against you a lot. Now, I think we should probably go for this captain first. One, because, yeah, he's the bigger threat of them. And two, at close range, he's forced to use a really, really, really crap slim sword. See, I told you mage fighters with swords are pretty useless most of the time. When they have support swords, as in swords that give certain skills though, they can be quite annoying. Hint, a certain boss in the next chapter. Of course, unfortunately, there's no way to get rid of that Blizzard Mage in the mountains unless you decide to climb up there, in which case he will be raining blizzards on you while you're doing so. And, don't know if I've mentioned this before, but enemies' weapons never break in this game. So you can't just force him to run out of blizzard uses like you can in later games in the series. I really don't think these two are going to affect anything at the moment, so I'll just bring them back.